So guys, my God, Yani, we're over here excited. I'm super excited to host this phenomenal woman here today alongside Kush. Now, this particular lady has been in the entertainment scene, for 15 years. 15. And I think hata ni kama ni mingi. Kwa sababu niki count back miaka yangu, must be over 15 years. And we've had her, she's made us laugh, she's made us cry, she has told us stories. Yani Kalekye Mumo, you are the one. Andy.
Why, thanks. How you guys doing? Looking lovely.
You too. I'm so happy to finally meet you in person. I watch you, I follow you up, you inspire me in so many ways.
Thank you, thank you very much.
Those women.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
You are.
Superwoman.
Especially for women who are in this industry, having come in after you and having listened to you, watched you on TV. Your story is very inspirational.
I'm really, you know, proud when I hear that, because obviously then I did something right.
Yes,
because there are lots of people who come up to me and say that, and I'm like, okay, so there was something I was doing. I was not just hanging out,
chilling.
Bado
unafanya,
yes, that I am still doing.
Kalekye, you're yellow.
Excuse me, are you trying to deny your name, Mikali? Are you trying? You look at yours first. Let's just look at your top. It is a confusion for any chameleon. So please leave me and my jello alone. Actually, it's mustard, honey. It's mustard, please.
Wait.
You know the way they say cambas and yellow.
Yeah,
yellow.
But can you see?
But can you see what's going on? You're green, mustard, and I don't know.
We are just very okay over here, you know. Do not mind us.
We're good. Color is life. Color is happiness, and I think during this period, the one thing you want to do is keep happy, keep, you know, the life alive. I haven't really been leaving the house, so this is like a trip. Oh my God.
You're like, finally I get to dress
road
up,
trip.
You know? Amazing. So, you know, I just have like to just start from, you know, where did the journey begin? You know, road trip yako. Ilianza lini? Like your destination go kasema manzita nimeenda hii trip tukiendanga.
Ah, God. I mean, I think for me, which is, I think a lot of people find it strange that I knew I wanted to be on radio by the time I was 10. Because music was something that I was introduced to because my dad loved music. So he had lots of LPs that he came back with from the States. He was one of those guys who studied in the States early in the 60s. And so he had lots and lots of LPs. And that's one thing I inherited from him, his LP player and his LP. So I used to listen to music all the time. Then for us guys, radio then was VOK. And so, you know, the music and the stations were limited. So you had 4 o'clock beat time. So every time I'd leave school, I hurry up to finish my homework because I want to listen to beat time. And so for me, I always used to say, how can I be inside that radio? I want to be inside because I thought they were inside. You know, and of course, that's a question you ask your mom radio and she tells you, what? Can you focus on school? That is for people who have nothing better to do with their lives. And that was her premonition for the longest. That's all she ever thought. And that's how they defined it, because lots of the people who were on air back then were from the coast. My father is half coastarian. And so anything to do with that kind of entertainment was, those people, they don't work. In fact, they just disturb us as a family. And so you are not even going to be dreaming about doing anything like that. So for me, it started there. And the journey to getting there was difficult with parents who, of course, were like, hell to the no. I'm sorry. Unaenda wapi? Kufanya nini? Kwa nini? And so I ended up doing a degree that at the time I thought had nothing to do with anything that I would ever want to do in radio or on being media. But doing international relations later in life, I realized that it taught me how to think, how to analyze, how to debate even better. And so that gave me a stepping stone in conversation. What do? We debate on radio. It's a full-on debate. And so, you know, when I finished my degree, I went and I interned at the Turkish embassy. They gave me a contract. I was bored, you guys.
It was a dream job for some people.
I know. It's just that I used to finish my work by, I get in at 9. I finished my work by 11. I was bored, you know, and of course I can't go home and say, I'm so bored, because my folks will be like, are you crazy? And, you know, from there on, it was, how do I get myself into this industry? Metro FM had started at the time. I had applied, done interviews until the last stage where the Kiswahili, ilini fail kidogo, because I didn't know how to do that extremely sanifu Swahili that you see happening now. And so, of course, that cut me down. But I was like, then I must have something because I made it to the top 10.
Yeah.
So if I made it to the top 10 and into the top 5, it's only one language barrier. Then I'm great in English. Find something for English.
Yeah.
The journey of sending tapes, let me tell you guys.
It was tapes.
Friends.
Friends.
First of all, by the time you find a studio, and then you find someone willing to record you to do a voice demo on a tape, that you went and you scrummaged to buy a good chrome tape.
Yeah.
I mean, it really did take a lot. And the way to send your CV used to be you either drop it off, post it, or you even fax your CV. So I used to, I faxed Capital FM. Those guys, muko na CV zangu mingi sana. By the way, muko na mingi sana. I faxed and faxed and faxed. I mean, and it wasn't working because at the time, I guess it wasn't my time. You know, I realized later, I used to think, and I know people who work there. I had family friends who had gotten into the industry, but it doesn't work like that because it's not their job. This is not you don't own the company. It's not your shot to make. And so when I finally got my break, I had worked at Homeboys. Well, that was the fax I was using. Sorry, Mr. Maikraba, it was your fax. I was sending from there, and I was like, okay, my idea was if I get into Homeboys, Homeboys are playing now on Capital. They're the first DJs to get a show. Maybe one day they'll send me to go take, by then for them they could afford CDs, take a CD. Then when they're there, I will speak and they will tell me, oh, come do a voice test, or I'll convince them. That was my plan. So I left the Turkish embassy to go and work for Homeboys. My mother had 10 heart attacks, about 10. And she used to tell people, I don't have a job. Okay, I was about to break into cow. Let me focus.
There we are.
There we are. Imagine bumping into a family friend and saying, oh, so have you found a job? And you've just come from the office and you're actually passing by the supermarket to buy things to take home. That day I even walked out and didn't buy anything. I was like, this chick is saying I don't have a job. But for the journey to work, I believe I needed to be at the right age, have matured in a certain way, gone through how to manage a group of people as Homeboys. That's what I was doing, management there. And then how to understand the background of production. I left Homeboys for a job in Karen at Rough Cuts Productions. It's a studio. And they're only adding me 2K more. I know I came from 8,000 to 10,000. So my mom was still, because people at that time who had graduated with the grades I had were earning 25,000 bob. And that was a lot of money. Me, I was at 8,000, 10,000 for a long time. Happy. But I was happy because I was chasing something. Going to Rough Cuts, they trained me as a sound engineer. I learned how to edit. I learned how to actually now utilize my voice. I started doing commercials. I started recording people doing commercials. That's when my mom started saying, okay, maybe. Because now they're hearing my voice on an ad. And I'm like, Mom, that's my voice. And, you know, I can show her with a little bit of that. And that's when it started changing. Fast forward to another 2-3 years after that, I'd given up my dream on radio. Because I was happy being a sound engineer.
What?
Okay. I had moved to now be a sound engineer in my own right, working with Mediva. I don't know if you remember Mediva. They produced Tazama. They produced Agenda Kenya. So those are shows I was doing the sound for. And I was like, I'm good now. I got this. Don't need you. I'm fine. Because I had tried for 5 years, sending demo tapes, talking and trying to send CVs, and it wasn't working. So when I'd given up and was happy doing what I'm doing, my best friend says, hey, have you heard, hey, Capital FM are doing a radio jam, idol thing. So you ingia. I'm like, for why?
You already gave up that dream,
these guys, see, they know me. See, they know how many tapes do they have? I mean, really, if they don't know me by now, also they can go jump in a lake. And that was my attitude. And she really insisted and insisted. And by the time I think it was the last day, she called me and said, Chick, stop being stubborn and big-headed. Just send your CV. In fact, they're not asking for anything else. Just send a CV.
No
and one line, no demo tape, one line saying why you deserve this job. And when I got irritated now, it's like 5 o'clock, she's telling me this thing is on until 8 p.m., so you better send it. I got annoyed and I sent this CV that had all my production jobs, and production CVs you list each job you touched. What were you doing? Were you the editor? Were you monitoring sound? Were you doing? So I had a 10-page CV and I was 27 or 26. And they called me because the CV was too long. That's the reason Marcus and Leo called. They said, who has a CV this long? Also, I had written, yeah, your search stops now. You're wasting your time with everyone else. You know, something like so. And yeah, so they called me and I went in for the interview. It was sit with the hosts and do a show. And the audience voted and I won. And that's how I got onto radio. I started there.
5 years, like, and you might have given up, but the fire was still there.
Yeah,
because
I
immediately
guess,
when
yeah.
they told you have the job, you haven't stopped.
Yeah,
See, you haven't stopped. You keep reinventing yourself. Times have changed. We've moved from tapes, from CDs to flash to now you can just.
I'm digital now. I
Yeah,
mean, that's really what I'm
exactly.
doing now. Is
Yeah.
I'm doing a digital show
Yeah.
on YouTube. I'm doing a digital now IG. I just started KM Radio. I realized that people missed me a lot on radio. I didn't
well, please,
quite
they did.
get
And I just have to
that.
slide this in. Are you planning on getting back into radio, or right now you're just going to do your own Kalekye
mean-
Mumo network things? Agwan, that's why you
I
get
mean, I
her.
think it's really hard to say you can or you cannot because I also, one thing I've learned is that God leads my path. And by the time I was deciding to set up my production gear in my house to do this KM radio on IG Live, I had not quite thought what next. I was just like, why not? What will happen if I put this here? Oh, wow. I set it up the day before. The next day I looked at it and said, am I going to really do this? Am I going to do this? And by 5 o'clock I decided, okay, 6, we're going live. And I started making announcements. It was one of those things I can't tell you whether, yes, I will go back to a radio station or no. I think I've now gotten over the toxicity that I felt I was going through while working in one place for 10 years. And I think if a radio station wants to work with me now, it's really based on what value are we giving each other? What can I teach the next generation? Because I'm more interested in that than anything else.
And I love the way you do your stuff. It's so unfiltered, like it's just raw content.
Yes.
Like you hit the nail, like you know what, this is how it is. I'm saying it the way you like it, you don't, I don't.
You take it.
Yeah, like you go so hard and everything you do, you're so passionate about it.
Yeah.
You talk to women, you give them confidence, you know. I look at you and I'm like, you know, at some point I used to have an issue with my tunyama, but nowadays I'm like,
Calm
Like,
yourself.
I mean, it's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, unasema?
Yeah. However, everybody is entitled
Yeah.
to have the feeling of,
Yeah.
of look, this is my body, how I feel about it. It's really up to me. And the same thing when I decided that I wanted to go on my weight loss journey, it had nothing to do with anybody else. Remember, I'd been in the industry by then, it was almost 9 years. And I mean, there's nothing that I had not been told. And you can imagine, I grew up with 3 brothers. I have 3 older brothers. Is there anything I had not had? Is there any diss I had not had? I was like, whatever. And so my decision had nothing to do with someone, because initially people are like, oh, now there must be a guy, there must be. And I'm like, bruh.
Yeah.
If I have to do it for somebody else,
Yeah.
then there's a problem,
Yes,
right?
that's true.
And so it was for me. And the decisions after that, I hope people saw, have nothing to do with anyone else. They have everything to do with how I feel. Because if I give you an example, after I lost the weight, there was the whole plus size community who came at me. Like, oh, you are cheating us, now see you have left us. And I was like, no.
Left us where?
Left you where? Also, it's a
Yeah.
personal decision how you want to be. All I say is be happy in your skin. Now, if in your skin you have a challenge that could lead to a health problem, really, are you going to stay that way or are you going
you
to
have
change
to
it?
make
You're
the
going to change it. And then I didn't like the way I looked when I became too skinny. No. First, I had very many of my dude friends now saying, now see, you've spoiled everything. So there's, you know, I remember, I mean, one of the dudes that I had a crush on for the longest time, he had a crush on me. We didn't do anything about it, but he was so mad. He was like, how, who told you to lose the weight? Who told you? We didn't like you the way you were. And so that's when you realize there's somebody for everyone. Everyone has a taste.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't rock your boat, please go jump in another boat.
That's
Just
what's
move.
up. Megan Trainor alisema it's all about that base, and then a few months later, years later, she lost all of it.
Yeah.
You are allowed
Yeah.
to change your mind. You're allowed. It's okay.
Your life.
It's your
That's the
life.
one
Yeah.
thing that
It's
I
true.
don't get. People don't
Yeah.
understand. It's your life and
Yeah.
the way you want to live it, whatever you feel. You wake up tomorrow, Kush, and you decide this green hair is now working for me. I'm never going to wear it again. You burn it, even if I told you I love it and you look amazing. That's your business. That has nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
But I think the problem that many people have is they do not know themselves well enough, and they get irritated by people who know themselves well enough and are loving themselves the way they are, that it really drives them bats that they cannot poke at them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, not to say that there's not going to be a comment that doesn't irritate me
Yeah.
as Kalekye. There are, but I choose. How is this adding value to my life?
Very
Is
true.
it paying my rent? Kwanza siku hizi vile kuko tight. Is it buying my food? No. So then I leave it.
That's
you know,
true.
I leave
That's
it and I
true.
walk away from it.
I'm excited that you're here and this conversation continues, guys. 22999. Please, all the questions that you have for Kalekye Mumo, please, the SMS line is free. We'll be right back with her after this short commercial break.